Hi there. I'm Eric Wordweaver Sjerven, Gothi of the Ridgar folk here in East Texas. I'd like to welcome you to the Raven's Call. It's a show where I ramble on about different heathen-related subjects, some introductory, some more advanced. It all depends on what strikes my fancy for the day. Again, I want to thank you guys all for continuing to watch the shows. It really means a lot to me when I can log in and see, like this morning, I think we were at 221 subscribers. So it blows my mind. So, I've said in the last video how much it meant to me, and I want to keep reiterating this, that I do these videos because I want to, more than anything else. I have fun with them. I enjoy them. This particular series was born out of a request from my ETH group, East Texas Heathens. For those that aren't familiar, I do a side gig, East Texas Heathens. And it's a little meetup group where I get together local heathens in the area and we talk about different kinds of things. Anyway, and I know I covered some of this in my last video, but still, this particular feed, the Raven's Call, was born out of, the newbies asking for just, some of my thoughts and explanations that I would give during our ETH meetups in a recorded format that they could go back and watch again later, because it really helped them kind of get started on things and to kind of springboard their research. So I thought I'd put them out here to you guys, and you guys have been very receptive to them. Honestly, I figured my other channel, the Weaving Words podcast, was going to pick up a lot more than this one. So I'm color me surprised to find out that this is the one that gets the most views. So again, thank you guys, much appreciated. Make sure you're clicking like on the videos. It really helps with the algorithms and everything with relation to the videos. Share them from the YouTube page if you can, and make sure you subscribe and ding the notification bell. It may be over here, I never know. It flips the video funny. Every time I think I've got it, like, it's right here, and then I watch the video on playback and it's like, no, it's over here. So, So, today, I want to go back, roll it back a little bit, and onto our subject at hand. I want to talk a little bit about something that I brought up during the Soul Complex videos, particularly with relation to reincarnation. Now, I've had a lot of newbies ask me where heathens stand on reincarnation, because they either come from a Judeo-Christian background wherein reincarnation is not really a thing. They're worried about the afterlife, etc., etc., etc. And then I've talked to some who have studied Buddhism and find the concept of reincarnation to be fascinating. Yeah, I get it. It is a fascinating thing. And they ask me, what is Heathenry's take on reincarnation? Well, of course I tell them it depends on which tribe you talk to and what their particular belief structure is. However, generally speaking, from what I've been able to tell from my own research and from my readings and everything, there seems to have been the concept, at least within the Arch-Heathen times, and this is kind of how I feel as well based on my own belief structure, that there's a form of partial reincarnation that's possible through the way the soul complex works. Now, in the previous videos, we sat down and we broke down all the individual parts and pieces of the soul complex. When you're talking about the afterlife, and I can do a lot of videos just on afterlife aspects themselves, I would highly recommend everybody read The Road to Hell by H.R. Ellis Davidson. That's Hilda Ellis Davidson. She does an absolutely fantastic job on some research there, and I think anybody who's looking at exploring funerary rites and things like that needs to explore that that article. I think you'll find it invaluable. So I'm going to come back to that one though, because I do plan on doing a video on funerary rites here in the future. So come back to that. But essentially, the way I see things and the way that I've seen some of the lore support, and then where I've come to in my own head, is that the soul complex is indeed that. It is a complex. And like any other thing, it is bound to similar laws of physics or metaphysics the same way as anything else is. The body is going to break down into its base elements. It's going to be returned once the cohesion is released, once the spiritual soul aspects are dissipated. It's going to release that energy, and the body will then begin to break down and go back into its base elements, return to Ymir's flesh, to the earth, to Midgard, and then be recycled and reused. So, part one, there is physical reusement of the physical body within the land, within Midgard. Okay? So, after a fashion, planting a tree on top of a beloved ancestor's grave does indeed bring a portion of that ancestor up into the tree, because the physical lich part of the soul is being broken down and is feeding that tree. Now, of course, it's not like the body is being given new life in that instance. That is being incorporated into something else. So a piece of the soul is being mixed with the pieces of this tree soul and becoming something new. So that's a manner of speaking, kind of a form of reincarnation in a physical sense, solely because everything that makes up our physical being is recycled, and that's just the way the system is put into place and works. So it churns back and forth. Everything that we are made up of, that old saying, we are stardust or star stuff. We are star stuff. We are a mixture of everything that was blasted into everything in the Big Bang, in the Ginunga Gap. That in that moment of creation, when the raw materials were brought forth that the gods would later turn into Midgard and the Nine Realms, particularly Midgard, because I see all of our plane of reality as Midgard. So all of that's here. Everything that makes up us has made up something else before and will make up something else again later. So from a physical standpoint, from a physical aspect, yes, there is a form of physical reincarnation, although it's not a sentient form of reincarnation, but a piece of that soul, an influence of that soul will carry on. That's why in a lot of the lore you're going to see that the soul is thought to remain with the body. Particularly some of the hardcore recon guys that I've talked to very much feel that the soul in its entirety remains with the body. And this guy that I'm talking about in particular does a lot of research into mound culture. The idea of going into the mound at death, where the body is interred into the mound, the burial mound, and then the soul remains with the body and rejoins the ancestors through that. The mound then becomes a permeable membrane into the underworld, and therein the soul rejoins with the ancestors, which is why ancestral burial grounds were so important, because to go to rest with the ancestors, you needed to physically rest with the ancestors, with proximity to that. A very real, they are bound to the mound kind of thing, because that's where the physical body was. Now, I do not feel personally that is the fullness of it. It is what it is there. For me, I feel like a portion of the soul remains with the body. And that portion of the soul that goes into the mound, goes into the earth, will be reincorporated into the land around it and become effectively new Vetir, new land spirits. They can be protective of the land that they were raised on, that was theirs, that they worked, that they toiled. I mean, that particular physical bond that they have with the land will make them a powerful protector. Similarly, there's all sorts of things that can go left, and they can become a malevolent spirit, particularly if they died violently upon the land, or if there were unfinished businesses, things like that. Not even necessarily unfinished business. Usually, it's a violent act, or someone who is just particularly vile in life, and then that particular aspect survives on into either the spirit inhabiting the land or the draugr, if the spirit energy of the Ond is not completely washed away from the lich. So that's on the physical side. Okay, so yes, there is an element of that. Like I said before, afterlife, there's the mound culture, going into the mound, and I will do more stuff on mound culture in particular later on, if that's something that interests you guys. We'll go into a bit of that in some more detail. May go back and reread Road to Hell and a couple of other sources and refresh my own background on this. Some great stuff, absolutely. But essentially, yes, just like fairy rings, just like fairy mounds, fairy hills are a great example. Celtic fairy hills function a lot like our ancestral mounds. They are the Fae folk, the hidden folk, who are tied to this hill. It is their passageway between the hidden world and the physical world. The mound culture is fairly similar for heathens in that our ancestors passed through the doorway of the mound, and that is their gateway between this and the underworlds, the other world, the unseen world, Helheim, for to put a name on it. This is the land of the dead, and this is where they go to sit and feast. Now, my personal belief, and you can mark this as UPG, you can mark it as whatever you want, I don't care. This is how I see the world. Take it or leave it. Grain of salt, all that fun stuff. But here's what I see, okay? I see, sorry if I touched the mic there, I see that the soul complex elements break up and dissipate the same as the physical elements of the body, because I find that spiritual energy, soul energy, metaphysical energy follows similar rules as the laws of physics. Maybe not exactly the same, but at least similar. So it stands to reason to me that when it comes to spiritual or soul energy, that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change forms. We're talking about Newtonian physics in that instance. So in that essence, the energies that make up the soul will dissipate and be reincorporated. They are not destroyed. They do not cease to be. They are reincorporated and they change form. So there are elements of the soul that are recycled. And just like the body is broken down, decomposed, and this is why I led with that, so you guys can kind of see a physical embodiment of what I'm talking now metaphysically of. So just like the body breaks down into its core elements, every little piece of me, all of my base elements are going to be broken down and made into worm food. They're going to be made into tree food, grass food, whatever it may be. The nickel, the iron, whatever is in my blood that they want, they're going to get. Because that's what happens when I'm done with this part of my soul being. I will return and join with the land. This part of me will. And then my belief is that the soul complex elements do the same thing. That they break down and dissipate. The same way, like I said before, Newtonian physics can neither be created nor destroyed, so they're going to break down into their core elements. Those things like the hamr, and if you're talking about like the filje, will go on and follow the folk soul line and attach to somebody new within it. The hamenya, if you were to incorporate or inherit the hamenya, would then move on to the next in line to inherit said hamenya. And again, I know there's some discrepancy on the filje and hamenya thing. I've had some conversations with you guys on the comments and on Facebook about it. It's just how I see it, okay? I know we're going to vary. It's cool. It's cool. I've had some very cool conversations with regards to that and look forward to having some more. It all depends on which version of what you've read and whose insights you've listened to and just how much it makes sense in your head. Not saying that mine's the right one, just saying that mine is mine. That's all. All right, now this is where the spiritual side of reincarnation comes in, all right? This is the spiritual side, the spiritual soul, the firth, the immaterial aspects of the soul complex dissipate and break down the same way the physical body does. Broken down in their key elements, and they're sent to either different locations, i.e. the halls of the gods and goddesses. Just my thoughts. I get it. I know it's not in the writings, but that's what I see. Or there seems to be, and this one there is some support for, all right, guys? Now listen. There seems to be, in the naming scheme of Northern Europe, particularly in Scandinavian areas, because that's more what I read about, the belief that giving a child the name of an ancestor invites a portion of that ancestor's soul to seat within the child. Now, like I was saying before, Winifred Hodge wrote some very interesting stuff on the soul complex, and one of the theories that she had, before we got sidetracked, I believe, was that the soul doesn't seat fully in an infant born until about 9 days after. Hence the whole 9-day waiting period for the naming ritual. Now, veracity of the naming ritual, etc., etc., etc. There is a lot of stuff in there about the heathen father or patriarch accepting the child, putting water on their head, something very similar to baptism, but it's not baptism. It's the naming of the child, the recognition, you are real. You are now brought into the tribe. It is the recognition. It's a rite of passage. It is the recognition of successful birth. You have done well. You are here. I acknowledge you. You made it. Welcome to the family. And that the name would be seated with the child. And inviting, the idea therein is that early infant death can sometimes be led from failure for the soul to seat completely. The Ond doesn't seat well. The different aspects of the soul don't adhere in the whole complex, and then something goes awry, birth defects form, or SIDS kicks in, or whatever, and the baby doesn't make it. So that's where that particular thing comes from. Thus, for a child to be viable, after about a week and a half, the child would be named, and like, okay, you're going to make it, so you're whole, you're here, we're going to bring you into the family. And so in that ritual, there seemed to be the belief that giving the child the name of an ancestor would invite a portion of that ancestor's soul to seat within the child. You would see elements of that ancestor's personality prevalent in the child's personality. It's not to say that the child would inherently become this ancestor reborn, although there were some that it seemed to think that way wholly. At least in a couple of the references that I saw, it seemed more likely that if you named a child after, Granddaddy Bob, that the child was going to take after Granddaddy Bob. That there was actually a portion of his soul that was going to seat within the child, and then that would manifest. He'd actually get a piece of his soul energy, which is a tremendous blessing if this person had a good, strong life, if their main was strong, if they had strong luck, if they had done good things, and they were well remembered, and they did well for themselves. Giving a piece of that energy, giving a piece of that soul to this child gives them a wonderful head start. The name serves as a beacon within the greater folk soul, where all of these elements get reincorporated, kind of like a river within the greater soul energies that the soul elements are all tied to. This name creates a beacon which calls to that portion of that ancestor's soul to come and seat within the lich of this newly forming human being. The idea being that as these other soul elements cement and the child is made whole, that you seat this last piece, and it helps to guide the child's future, hopefully in the greatest way possible, but also ensuring a modicum of immortality to the ancestor for whom they are named. So there it is. It's a partial reincarnation, not a full reincarnation. I haven't found anything in the lore that supports a full reincarnation, other than those instances wherein the individuals feel like naming the child after an ancestor fully seats that ancestor's soul, and they are then that ancestor reborn. But those are few and far between, and honestly, I think lost to interpretation in a lot of ways. No, I see it as, from what I've seen, that portion of the soul seats in and influences the development of the child as the child develops and goes on. So a partial reincarnation of the soul, just as there is a partial reincarnation of the body through manifestation of the physical world, Animir's flesh, in tree and plant and bug or whatever it may be. The physical body is reused, and thusly those energies are tied to the land. They become Vetir, Alfar, Hidden Folk, whatever. That's where that kind of gets reused, and that's where those things form and are born, in my understanding anyway. So I hope that's interesting to you guys. Let me know in the comments whether or not you agree, you disagree. If you think I'm just full of crap, let me know. Subscribe to the channel, like I said before. Hit like on the videos, please. I need the demographics. Or if you don't like it, hit dislike. I've only got one dislike at this point, and I'm going to count that as a victory, because I don't think whoever found it was either down with the way I saw the Soul Complex, or they just thought Soul Complex in general is a bunch of BS, and so they just thumbed it down without even actually watching the video, which is genuinely what I think happened. I don't think they even watched the whole video. I think they like saw what it was and went, nope, I'm out, which is fine, totally fine. People are that way. You're not gonna like everything I do. And I get that, I understand. Let me know what you guys like, what you don't like. Comments, please. Constructive criticism is helpful. Jump on Word Weaver Productions. It's on Facebook. It is an open group. Jump in there, join the conversation. I've got a roll call sheet out there so you guys can use it as a networking tool and be able to see where everybody is located, generally speaking. And so you can find other heathens in your area, because guess what? There are heathens in your area. You just got to know where to look and find the right networking tools. So trying to make this one of those, okay? Jump in the conversation there. I've also added up my kind of Raven's Call request line, so you guys can throw in, if you've got questions, lexicon issues, something you want me to prattle on about, you just want to hear my weird thoughts on something, feel free, jump on there, comment, let me know. I'm more than happy to develop a video around these questions, or if it's a quick and easy one, just answer it there on the Facebook page. You can follow me on Twitter at _Sjerven. I get on there occasionally. I'm not good at Twitter. I'm good at Facebook. I'm not good at Twitter. So, we'll see. And like and subscribe, okay? Like the videos, subscribe to the channel, ding the bell. I think it's over here. So ding the bell so that you get all the updates and all the notifications. If you don't ding the bell, you don't get all the vids. YouTube has gotten really wonky with their algorithms lately. And if you don't do that, you don't get everything. So with that, thank you guys. Hail. Have a good day.